Alrighty, party peoples of the interwebs, a brief update in the Dexter Taylor case. Dexter Taylor, for those of you who don't know, I had him on 3 weeks ago before he was convicted and swiftly sent to Rikers Island. Dexter Taylor is a New York man who was arrested, charged, and convicted with, just make sure I get it right, criminal possession of a weapon for his possession of unserialized firearms and unfinished receivers. The case was widely dubbed the ghost gun case because Dexter Taylor, who is a man with no criminal record, extremely upstanding citizen, I think he's got his own radio show, he's got a great radio voice, his Carbon Mike on Twitter. I'll put the links in the pinned comments so you can go find him. He was arrested for having assembled firearms with lawfully procured kits, which he ordered in his own name, had delivered to his own apartment in New York, lawfully procured, put together his own firearms because he was interested in putting things together. He's a smart guy, loves doing things like that. He was raided. Apparently they got his info from the online stores or whoever sold these kits and raided him. He had 12 or 13 fully constructed firearms in his apartment, but in New York, you gotta have them registered with the state, otherwise it's unlawful criminal possession. He was arrested, charged, went to trial. I'm not sure what he thought his defense was going to be, other than Second Amendment, the Supreme Court Bruin decision, which, according to the judge, I forget her name now, the judge stated, or is quoted as having said, "Don't bring your Second Amendment arguments into this courthouse. There is no Second Amendment in this courthouse. This is New York." Because apparently the arguments of law need to be left for appeal, and the arguments as to whether or not he fills out the boxes of the actus reus and the mens rea of this particular provision of New York state law, if he fills those conditions, he's guilty at the state level. Leave your Second Amendment Supreme Court Bruin decision arguments for appeal. He was convicted. He was hauled off to Rikers Island. This is a man who was a productive member of society, father, and he had a job, he paid taxes, he contributed to the system. Arrested, convicted, hauled off, and now is turned into a ward of the state, a burden of the state. He's gone from tax-paying, productive citizen to someone that the taxpayers now need to carry while he waits in jail, while his case goes to appeal, and while he waits for a decision on whether or not he gets released pending appeal. All right, that's where the update comes in, because I got a call from Rikers Island. It's not often that you get a call from Rikers Island, but Dexter called me this afternoon, wanted to give me the update, let me know so that I could let the rest of the world know that he's doing well. He said he's doing push-ups, playing chess, and praying. But he didn't say it like that. He said praying, push-ups, and chess. Exercising the body, exercising the mind, and strengthening the spirit. He actually said where he's staying in the particular dorm or the section of Rikers, it's more, not elderly gentlemen, but 50-plus aged, middle-aged men. So it's not as violent as the rest of Rikers. He's got good bunk mates. And he said he's doing lots of push-ups, playing lots of chess, praying as well. And so he's doing well. I mean, it's wild to be like basically on another planet from the rest of the world. I'm sitting here in Florida, I finish a podcast, I get a call from a man in Rikers Island who is there for, he doesn't know how long because he's facing 18 years for the charges. He's asking for release pending appeal, and one of the other updates that he wanted me to relay to the world is that he had the hearing and he's going to find out, I don't know, within a couple of weeks, whether or not he gets released pending his appeal. He said hello to everyone, Allison Morrow in particular. He thanked Allison Morrow as well, and authorized me to relay all of this to the world. He's surprisingly upbeat, but wants the world to understand the seriousness of the situation and the fact that the Second Amendment rights, the constitutional right to bear arms is under attack. Notwithstanding the Supreme Court coming out in the Bruin decision and saying it's a fundamental constitutional right that shall not be infringed, New York State says, Second Amendment, don't bring that into our courtroom. This is New York State. States which basically said quite vocally, we are going to defy the Bruin decision. We don't care what the Supreme Court says. We're going to insurrect, I guess. Is that maybe not the right word? We're going to defy the ruling of the Supreme Court, redraft our state laws that seek to criminalize mere possession of a firearm. Bear in mind, they called this case the ghost gun case because he orders the parts and assembles them himself. So they're not serialized, or at least I should say registered in the state of New York. They are serialized because the kits that he orders are ordered online, are lawful kits with serial numbers. I mean, they found him somehow. They found him through the orders that he placed.
I bought legal parts online under my own name and had them shipped to my house. So No. Why would I think that a perfectly peaceable, law-abiding citizen with no criminal record, right, is a felon because he manufactures an object that the law of this land says is legal, that he has a right to keep and bear? Why would I think that would be illegal?
But the guns were not registered with the state of New York and therefore qualify as criminal possession. He wants people to understand, and people should understand. I'm Canadian. We don't have Second Amendment rights up in Canada. Gun ownership has effectively been criminalized in Canada. You don't have a right to own a gun in Canada. I had to take a 2-day course. I had to get approved by the police, background check, written authorization from my wife so that I could own a long arm, a non-restricted firearm. We don't have Second Amendment rights in Canada, and in Canada, the legislation is so obscene, so absurd, to deter people from even wanting to own a gun. Because you own a gun and you don't store it properly, you're looking at years in jail in Canada. They're getting there in the States, in California, in commie New York, imposing regulations that criminalize lawful gun ownership as guaranteed by the Second Amendment, as reaffirmed by the Supreme Court. He's in jail right now, awaiting his fate in terms of appeal. I don't know what the sentence was yet. And it doesn't seem that all that many people out there are that involved or as involved as they should be in this case. You know, it's New York State, and people are saying, well, that's what you get for living in commie New York State. That's what you get for living in a blue hellhole. I asked Dexter that question, actually, when we were doing our interview. I think I did. At least I know his answer. People are going to say, play stupid games, win stupid prizes. Live in stupid states, win stupid convictions. And he said, when has socialism or communism ever been satisfied with their existing border? When have they ever said, I'm not looking at Florida because I'm happy with New York? No. This will go from New York, it will go to Illinois, it'll go to Michigan, it'll go to Florida, because socialism will come to you. And as they say, I think the expression is the end goal of socialism is communism. These authorities who do not respect the Second Amendment, who do not respect Supreme Court decisions, they're not going to stop at New York, they're not going to stop at California. And if you think you're safe because you're in Texas or you're in Florida, Tennessee, New Hampshire, you might wake up one day and see that red tide, and I'm not talking about the Republican red wave, the red tide of socialism, communism has washed ashore of your beautiful island free state of Florida. So Dexter is doing well, awaiting a decision from it's a board or a panel, but I think it's one person who heard his request to be released, and they're going to adjudicate on whether or not he gets released pending appeal. Notwithstanding all of that, he's been in Rikers for 2+ weeks now. He's doing well, and he wants the world to know that he's doing well. But pay attention to this case because it doesn't start or end only in the state of New York. And with that said, if you like what I do, you know what to do. Like, share, subscribe, yada, yada, yada. Viva Frei, the Viva Frei on Twitter. VivaBarneslaw.locals.com for the bestest above average community anywhere. But most importantly, exercise. Exercise your heart, your brain, and your soul. Talk to people in real life. Sunlight, and all the other good stuff. You know what it is. Peace out, peeps. Booyah.
As I try to explain it, because, people will try to say, well, I believe in the Second Amendment. I believe in the Second Amendment, but, and what I say is this, well, we have to decide what words mean. That's what we have to do first. Because are you talking about a right or a privilege? Because what the Second Amendment guarantees, and the Second Amendment doesn't bestow a right. The Second Amendment guarantees, the Second Amendment constrains the behavior of the government, of the state. It says, this right adheres to you because you are a human being, right? Because you're a creation. And therefore, the state cannot interfere with it. That's what the 2A says. Now, if people want to tell me, well, yeah, you can own weapons, but first you have to with the government. Then what I would say is this, well, now you're talking about a privilege. Now, are you willing to be so loose concerning the barrier, the boundary between rights and privileges when it comes to other rights, which are enshrined in the Constitution? For example, you have the right to freedom of conscience, right? You can declare for Christ if you want, or you can declare that Allah is the one God, whatever you want to do. Okay. Now, do you have to ask the state for permission in order to declare for Christ? No, because it's a right. You have a right to free speech. Do you have to ask the state of New York for permission before you, state your opinion about some matter?
They want you to.
Well, yes, but the fact is that but no, the answer is no. Why? Because it's a right. Okay, now by contrast, they want to tell you, well, you have to check in with, okay, well then, listen, you want to take a right and turn it into a privilege. Now, we can have that argument, but we have to first concede that that is what you're doing. You want to take away a right and give me back a privilege in return. Now, listen, I personally refuse that bargain. I think that's a terrible bargain. I'm happy with my rights, thank you. And no, I'm not interested in giving them up so you can give me back privileges in return. No, the answer is no.